More than 2,000 years ago, in the land of the Nile, there lived one of the most fascinating figures in world history, Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt. Born in 69 BCE into the Ptolemaic dynasty, Cleopatra was not fully Egyptian by blood. Her ancestors were Greek, descended from Ptolemy I, a general of Alexander the Great. But Cleopatra was different from her forefathers, for unlike them, she embraced Egyptian culture, language, and traditions. She called herself the living goddess Isis, winning the loyalty of her people. From the very beginning, Cleopatra's life was filled with struggle. When her father, Ptolemy XII, died, Cleopatra became co-ruler of Egypt with her younger brother. But court politics were cruel. Advisors and rivals plotted against her, forcing Cleopatra into exile. Many believed her story was over, but Cleopatra was no ordinary woman. Brilliant, ambitious, and fluent in many languages, she was determined to regain her throne. Her opportunity came with the arrival of Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome, who entered Egypt during his campaigns. Legend tells us that Cleopatra had herself smuggled into Caesar's palace rolled inside a carpet. When the carpet was unrolled, Caesar found himself face-to-face with the young queen. Cleopatra's charm, intelligence, and confidence impressed Caesar deeply. Their alliance was born, a union of politics and passion. With Caesar's support, Cleopatra defeated her enemies and secured her throne as the sole ruler of Egypt. But her destiny was tied to Rome. Cleopatra bore Caesar a son, Caesarion, whom she hoped would one day rule both Rome and Egypt. Yet fate was cruel. In 44 BCE, Caesar was assassinated in the Senate of Rome, leaving Cleopatra vulnerable once again. Still, she refused to surrender to despair. Instead, she forged a new alliance, this time with Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful generals and Caesar's loyal friend. Cleopatra and Antony's love story became the stuff of legends. Together, they ruled with immense power and luxury, blending the might of Rome with the wealth of Egypt. Cleopatra hosted Antony in her magnificent palace in Alexandria, dazzling him with her intellect and beauty. Ancient writers tell tales of her sailing down the Nile in a golden barge, dressed as the goddess Isis, while Antony fell deeper under her spell. But in Rome, their enemies watched with suspicion. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and future Augustus, saw Antony and Cleopatra as a threat to his rising power. War was inevitable. In 31 BCE, their forces clashed with Octavian's navy at the Battle of Actium, one of the most famous battles in history. Despite their courage, Antony and Cleopatra's forces were defeated. Their empire of dreams began to crumble. Heartbroken and surrounded, Antony fell on his own sword, dying in Cleopatra's arms. The Queen of Egypt was left with a terrible choice: to be humiliated as a prisoner in Rome or to choose her own fate. Cleopatra, proud and unyielding, chose death. According to legend, she arranged for a poisonous asp, a serpent sacred to Egypt, to be brought to her chamber. Holding it to her breast, she allowed the venom to end her life. She was only 39 years old. With her death, the Ptolemaic dynasty ended, and Egypt fell under Roman rule. But Cleopatra's story did not die with her. She became a legend, the queen who defied empires, who loved with passion, and who fought for her people's independence until her last breath. For centuries, poets, artists, and historians have remembered her as a woman of extraordinary beauty, but her true power lay in her intelligence, her courage, and her will to rule a world dominated by men. Even today, Cleopatra remains one of history's greatest and most mysterious figures, the last pharaoh, the living goddess, and the queen who dared to challenge Rome itself.